Why does Tyrone Ross need to meet Niels Ribeiro-Yemofio? Oh my God, guys, you're going to love this conversation. Superheroes versus supervillains. Why they're formed by the same exact starting conditions. We talked about the importance of what you tell people they are. The story about being told you're athletic, not you're smart. How that can change a life, how it can shape a life. And we talked about hope. A lot of hope. I mean, we got from 50 Cent to Emily Dickinson by the end. You're going to love this one. Jack Forehand. Let's roll some clips.
You have to be equal parts, feel like you're alone and no one has your back. When you are alone and no one has your back, you either, one, feel like you don't want anyone to ever feel the pain that you felt. And so you become a superhero. You go out there and like, I don't want anyone to experience what I just experienced. Or at the same time, you're like, no one has my back. No one helped me when I was suffering. I don't care about any of y'all. I'm going to get whatever I want. And if you're in my way, sorry for you. Because it doesn't matter because none of y'all were there for me. And that's the origin of supervillains. But it's the same start.
I never had anybody tell me I was smart. I always had people told me I was athletic. Look at the trajectory of telling somebody and reinforcing the fact of what you tell them. It could be you're dumb. It could be you're smart. It could be you're athletic. I'm going to lean into that. I'm impressionable. I'm young, right?
Hope is a powerful tool and a dangerous weapon. And it is really hard to get and to keep. But once you have it, you can do anything. And so I encourage you to keep your hope. It's a fight to get more hope and to give it to others.
My favorite superheroes are my parents. And I think about the power of their resilience and everything that they went through. My father coming to this country with nothing, right? And just wandering around and meeting my mother. And some of the things that they had to endure together. But also the villain side of what my father became to my sister as a stepdad to her, and then eventually what he became to me. And it was because the villains in his life started to show up, right? As you grow, you look back on that journey and realize, hey, you were looking at them as villains and certain things have happened, but as you get older, you realize their journey forced them into that duality.
You're watching Just Press Record right here on Cultish Creative YouTube, the show where I take two strangers from my network of misfits, miscreants, and mysteriously curious people that I think have to meet. So I send them a calendar invite with no warning of who is about to show up and we just press record. Brought to you today by Panoptica and Epsilon Theory. Make sure you check them out on their websites, wherever fine websites are sold. Who are my guests? I'm going to explain them to each other with three things. I've got a superhero, a supervillain, and a super MC. Yes, kind of plural. There's no Long Island love here. I'm a little let down that I can't make a big super MCs reference, but this is going to make sense. So the first guest, he's been a speed racer, and I mean literally so. So superhero, definitely we got to go with The Flash. I think that's the only option for who this is going to be. They're still figuring this out. One of them already figured it out. Which supervillain? I'm flipping the script. Who has also learned speed, but can be their own worst enemy and thinks they can fix everything about you or the world. Well, you need to do that superhero work. So I'm going with the Reverse Flash, aka Professor Zoom, as the counter. It's kind of easy to go in this way. And last but not least, super MCs, plural. I'm giving them Def Squad, obviously, because New Jersey is in the house. But now first, but not alone, respect Tyrone. I need your full cooperation and total attention, sir. The Funk Lord of 401 Financial, the brown-eyed bandit of Turnkey Labs, Tyrone Ross. Welcome to Just Press Record.
That might be better than the first one. That was incredible, man. That was incredible. Too good.
This is why I have to have you on, because you react in my appropriate way to my dumb jokes.
And the Death Squad shout out.
Death Squad
awesome.
shout out is clutch. In 2025, that's ill. That's ill.
Hey, man, listen. Low key, this is there for your wife, Mr. Next Guest, too, because I think she's got Trenton energy in her. Do I have that right? Yeah.
That's what my wife is from Trey.
Shh. We're going to
I'll
get
be
there.
quiet. I'll be
This
quiet.
next
My
guest,
bad.
who's the superhero? I'm going with Reed Richards. That's right. I'm going with Mr. Fantastic himself. God, does he put the work in the lab, figuring out stuff to help others, bending in all sorts of ways, which means the supervillain you knew we were going to get here is Dr. Doom. The I alone can't fix it mindset, the can't stretch, can't figure it out, despite being ridiculously rational about every detail. And Super MCs, now, this is a two-parter because I don't know how old you are, and I am on the edge of the deep cut, but I'm staring down into this abyss. I'm giving you first, as a test, Justice League, Justus League. No? Okay, fair enough. I had to show my love. And again, I'm at the top of this because I'm not a Triangle DMV cool underground stuff person. So then I'm going to give you Little Brother. Don't stop, can't stop. Yes, I want it. Can't stop, won't stop. Yes, he loves it. The Stan Lee for 501c3s. Nels, Ribeiro-Yemofio. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt. Salute.
Right.
Salute.
Right.
I appreciate the ridiculousness of Reed Richards. Dr. Doom is my favorite supervillain of all time. And Little Brother Knife Wonder needs to be discussed every time someone talks about music, MCs, and art in general. Utmost respect. I appreciate you, sir.
I am so happy because if Little Brother didn't land at all, I was going to feel really dumb. But
if people don't appreciate Little Brother, they don't deserve to talk to you, Matt.
that is what I am saying. That is what I am saying. Okay, the Doctor Doom thing. I'm just going to kick this off right here. You guys are going to figure out who each other are. We might even guess what the other does in a minute. Like the Doctor Doom fascination. A, where the hell are you that you're discovering Doctor Doom? How does this even get into your awareness as a kid?
So I'm a huge superhero nerd, a huge comic book nerd. I have been reading comic books. I think right around when I was like maybe 4 or 5 was when Superman, the Superman, Death of Superman comic book series came out. And so that was like my introduction into comic books. So Reign of Superman, the Superboy was like my first favorite superhero. I read all those comic books and it has grown because like right at that time, then the X-Men TV animated series came out, Spider-Man came out, the Batman, the animated series came out. So like I was born at the best time because like my love for superheroes just grew and grew. And of course, when you dabble into comic books, you're going to dabble into Marvel. And if you dabble into Marvel, you're going to be introduced to the first family of Marvel, which is the Fantastic Four. And then I found Dr. Doom. And he is by far one of the most interesting like comic book characters ever. And it is a shame that when you think about superheroes and supervillains, you'll name Lex Luthor, you'll name the Joker, you've seen them done well in live action, but the most interesting one is Dr. Doom. Maybe close to Magneto, but Dr. Doom is Batman, except with an ego, like a really bad ego problem. His kryptonite is his ego. If he didn't have his ego, he would probably be the greatest superhero of all time, but he cannot deal with the fact that somebody's smarter than him. And that issue alone has made him one of the most epic super villains ever. And I find it hilarious and very entertaining. So that's my fascination with Dr. Doom. He's so cool, but his ego is what gets in his way. And I find it fascinating. So that's my love for Dr. Doom.
Absolutely fantastic. And also fantastic because I feel like Magneto deserves a shout out every time. The Magneto backstory, one of the best. The X-Men animated series, like backstory retelling of that. I think I'm still affected by that from whatever 35 years ago or something. Tyrone, are you a comic book kid at all? Did you grow up with comics?
I'm not.
You missed this, right?
I missed that. I had a lot of friends that were in the comic books though, but it was never my jam. I was more of a Transformers guy. It stopped the Transformers for me.
Those Decepticons, man. There was something else.
Love Transformers.
Yeah.
That was the 1986 movie is probably the best representation of the
If
90s
you didn't
or the 80s
cry
for me.
when Optimus Prime died, you have no heart.
Yeah,
It's just simple as that, right?
no,
heart.
Agreed.
that was a major loss. Still is for some of us.
It still hurts.
still is for some of us.
It does.
That was my guy.
I couldn't believe they killed
And
him.
I have no
That
love
was-
for Hot Rod. Just
No.
letting you know.
None. Shout to
None.
Bumblebee too. Shout to Bumblebee.
Shout out to Bumblebee.
Yeah, shut the bullshit.
Okay, well, shout out to the what the heck was his name? The guy with he turned into the tape deck and the little like cassette tape.
Oh,
was, like,
yeah.
Blaster.
Blaster.
Yeah.
coolest toy
Oh,
I had
man.
ever,
Absolutely.
probably in my entire life.
Oh,
Tyrone, you were
easy.
into some other stuff though as a kid. I'm thinking at least of like some of the music and some of the collecting. But what other things were you into as a kid? If you didn't get sucked down the comics rabbit hole that helped you like understand the world was bigger than your parents' house.
It was hard to imagine that, but what's crazy, a lot of people are shocked when I say this, but I was a gamer. Like I played video games a lot. Like I was a gamer. It was like a big thing. My sister was really into it. It was older than me, so the Atari and Frogger and all that stuff, and then Contra came to be and all that. So we're definitely showing our age here, fellas. But
It's okay, we're confirming. We already reminisced over Optimus Prime
definitely showing our
dying,
age here.
so we're level fields here.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it was that. It was a little bit, like I said, it was a little bit of cartoons at that point, and then it just, like I said, it became music. But I just remember being really into obviously the cartoons, and then video games, and then music kind of took over, and nothing else really mattered after that.
All right, we're gonna hit music because it gets really
Yeah, we'll
interesting
get to
in a
that.
second. But I want to know, and Nels, I'm kicking this back to you with this question. There's something about discovering that world outside of our lives, like the house we grow up in. There's something about like you get this fabric of the way everything is built, especially from comic books, but also from cartoons and games, where you're like, I now have this insight. Were you aware that learning this crap was giving like you insight in the rest of the world at the time, or was it just fun stories?
Both and.
Okay, excellent.
I think like I realize that I enjoy stories. And so one of the best storytelling vehicles is comic books because they have the ability to use visuals, but also tell compelling stories and get away with it through the quirkiness of comics. But when you and I was very much a DC Comics head. But when you dive into Marvel, it's specifically X-Men. And the X-Men, I think for anyone who's kind of just been like in proximity to folks who come from oppressed backgrounds, the story is so compelling because the Marvel writers get away with talking about how we approach oppressed communities in the real world through the lens of comic books and mutants. And the older I got and the more I continued to read comic books, I was like, oh yeah, they're talking about us. They're talking about the things that we're going through right now. And they're even saying, if this happened here in the real world, this is how we would approach it based off of how we act as a society. And I find it compelling. But the other thing it makes me do is it has made me think of what it takes to become a superhero, and at the same time, what it takes to become a supervillain. And it's one and the same. So I'm giving you both the recipe of what it takes to become a superhero and a supervillain. You have to be equal parts feel like you're alone and no one has your back. When you are alone and no one has your back, you either one feel like you don't want anyone to ever feel the pain that you felt, and so you become a superhero. You go out there and like, I don't want anyone to experience what I just experienced. Or at the same time, you're like, no one has my back. No one helps me when I was suffering. I don't care about any of y'all. I'm going to get whatever I want. And if you're in my way, sorry for you, because it doesn't matter because none of y'all were there for me. And that's the origin of supervillains. But it's the same start. And so I have chosen to be a superhero. Like, I don't want folks to feel the pain that I felt, right? And so, like, I actively lean into how can I support folks so they don't have to go through experiences that I felt or had, or folks who have experienced oppression or have been in proximity to oppression have felt. And it's very much so came from comic books. It took me a while to actually realize that. I just like, oh well, this is the good thing to do. But yeah, as I've gotten older, I realized comics and the superhero hero journey in general played a huge part in me coming to that realization.
Tyrone, I'm not going to ask you to give us the depths of the game Contra.
Up, down,
But
down, left, right,
I mean,
left, right,
I'm
BA select start. You need them
forever
extra live,
tattooed,
man.
not just in your brain, but in your thumbs. You can feel that code. But I will ask you this. The whole idea of learning to play the game, like playing the game as the game, that is a metaphor. Like, did you realize that at the time? Were video games just some dumb kid stuff that you were into? Have you thought about what that love for playing those games means today, or that you were learning to play these things? Because it's a weird universe that little box that we had to blow in the cartridges was teaching us.
You know, it's funny. I haven't, but it immediately calls to mind a friend of mine, Tony Woolery. Tony, wherever you at, what's up, man? I remember, like, whenever, Christmas or the holidays, and like he would come running over barefoot in the cold, like, what'd you get? Right. So at that point, and that was my partner with Contra, we used to get busy, right? Late to the bus stop, all types of stuff. Like that was my man. So I think at that point, what it was to me, it started to congeal that feeling of camaraderie, right? And someone like that, a partnership and getting things done, and you do that part and I figure this out or whatever. So that came really early. And it was really close. We were really close, and it was really close to our experiences, both of us not really growing up with much, but we had each other. You know what I'm saying? And then with that, it allowed me at that point, my sister's 6 years older than me. So around that point, she had really started to go her own way. So it was just me. So he was almost like a brother, So it now forcing myself to think back on it, there is a lot that kind of came to be as a result of, again, just sitting there playing video games. It kept us out of trouble because around us, the world was happening, to say the least, right? And being in the house playing video games, right? Like literally, where our complex was, there's always that rickety fence between you and the projects.
Yes.
It's not protected.
Yep.
Everybody knows there's always that rickety fence that they act like, oh, this keeps you out of. No. So that was literally what was separating us from the whole world outside of it. But yeah, it was awesome to think about it now that you say that.
All right, I'm jumping both of you forward in time just because I want to hear you both tell these stories to each other. Nels, tell them where you grew up and tell them about your ambitions for college, because I think you picked out a college pretty early on.
Yes. So born and raised Alexandria, Virginia, grew up throughout the Northern Virginia area. So I moved about between 6 to 8 times between kindergarten and ninth grade. Most of it was for financial reasons. But it was throughout Northern Virginia. So I got to see up close and personal, like the impact of when there's not resources poured into a certain part of the community and how folks can treat you differently from one place to another place. But I always knew what school I wanted to go to. And that is the greatest school ever, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. That is the dream school. When I got to UNC, my freshman year, we won a national championship. When I graduated from UNC, the year after, we won a national championship. I'm just used to winning. So it has been my dream school. I was lucky enough to get in. When I got to UNC, like it really revealed a lot of the things that I was just percolating and wondering about whether it is the DMV, whether it is the world. And it actually gave me terminology to put to it. And that immediately helped inform what I was going to do for the majority of my life and how I was going to approach it. So I love UNC and really appreciate the experience that got me. And my wife also went to UNC. So it helped me find my lady as well. So yeah.
There you go. Stamp.
Stamp set approval.
Stamp.
Within this too, because I think this is important. Are you first generation in the family to go to college? Did anyone above you go to college?
The only so yes, I am first generation in college. My sister went to a 4-year school before me, but it was, we were the ones that had to figure it out. It is, and I am West African. So everyone in my family is from West Africa. I was the first one born in America. Everybody else is from Ghana. So my parents knew I was going to college. They didn't necessarily knew how I was going to go to college and what it took to go to college, but they knew that was the goal. Like, and so they're like, hey, do that. And so there was just a lot of having to figure it out. And that is another passion of mine and a passion that my wife shares as well. She was also she was a part of a lot of college access and success programs. So that is something that we both share, just a passion of helping folks who are first gen or just not familiar with the process of going to college, helping them at least think about, dream, and aspire to get to and through college.
Tyrone, you had some real ambitions on the ticket that was going to take you to college and all the places it was going to take you to in the world. And I was wondering.
I'm sensing why you connected us, my man. It's
starting
coming
to piece some
together.
things together.
I see what you're up to here. I got it.
Tell Nels about this ticket you had that was going to get you to college and just the way it was talked about in your house and family too.
It wasn't. And that's what was so crazy about it. So I'm the first in my family to finish high school, let alone go to college, and very familiar with moving around a lot. I have no childhood home or address. A few places I could take you to, but we'd be driving around New Jersey for quite a bit to show you all the places that I lived. In regards to, again, our financial situation, it's funny now, even being in finance, money wasn't talked about because it wasn't none. But it was mainly about survival. So college wasn't even a thing until I started running track and I got recruited. I was actually recruited by UNC. Going on the campus later, I should have went to UNC. It's a beautiful campus, but I ended up in the ACC at Georgia Tech. And while I was at Tech, there was a bad mamma jamma at UNC, Milton Campbell, who ran track there. Milton was the truth.
Yes.
and all the truth, the truth and all the truth. And as far as I know, I think I lost touch with him, but I think he's still competing. He's still in great shape. But Milton was the truth. So yeah, it was something for me where it wasn't until changing high schools and going to the school, as we spoke about in our podcast interview, where I didn't know what college was. I didn't know what anybody was taught. I didn't know anyone that had ever went. And then all of a sudden, these college coaches are sitting in my living room telling my parents I could go for free. And they're like, go where? Like, he's leaving the house to go where exactly? And, and I remember my father and my parents asking the most ridiculous questions. And my father's like, well, he has aspirin if he gets sick? Like, and they're like, yes. Like, he'll be fine. So, yeah, it was an interesting journey that, growing up in the Northeast and then going down to the South, the whole experience of Southern culture, being at a school and in a city in Atlanta at that time was probably bad for me, being away from home for the first time. Because I was there like when Atlanta became Atlanta.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
You were there when Atlanta was Atlanta.
Yes. And that's why my tenure there was very short. So, yeah, I was there.
How many friendships happened while you were there?
A lot of times. Yeah. Yeah, it was hard to fight. It was hard to fight. So,
Goodness
but
gracious.
it was unbelievable. So at that time though, what it also did was just open my eyes to the world, right? And a lot of different things that I just, you hear about your family in the South, right? They actually have like Southern grits. Like, oh, this is different. This is different,
Hmm.
right? The tea is sweet. I mean, not sweet. That's also interesting, right? Or not sweet. It's sweet cornbread and not sweet cornbread and all these other things. So it was definitely an eye-opening thing for me. It's my first time away from home. I graduated high school at 17, so I was incredibly young. 18 by the time I just turned 18 when I landed on campus. So yeah, man, it was something that I learned on the fly. My family learned on the fly. And one of the things now why I have an endowment there after getting kicked out twice is
Wow.
because I realized there's these systems set up for you always hear folks talk about, oh, I'm the first in, first generation college or whatever. I was like, I was first generation high school. So I didn't want any other athlete or any one period to go on campus and not feel that sense of community and feel like there was a hedge around them. So it was really important when I set up my endowment that we stuck to those rules, that this should be, yes, I'm fine with those first generation college, but there was no way. And they tried, that I was going to make it out of Georgia Tech at that time. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the rigor in my preparation. There was not much to lean on. And what's crazy about it is all of my roommates who were young Black men as well, all of their parents were well to do. All of them graduated. All of them were kind of well on the path. And here I am. My father didn't have a middle school education. My mother was a teenage mother. And here I am in college for free. It's like, that was great. But, I didn't have
Hmm.
that support system. So the outcome, everything happens for a reason, but the outcome was definitely set up for me to fail, not by anything that Georgia Tech did. Again, they tried, but it's very hard based on my background of being put in that environment with a school it's very hard to get out of Georgia Tech, very hard to graduate.
Hmm.
The outcome was going to be the outcome.
I think I know why you put us together. Um, so I remember freshman year, I was a fairly bright child. Well, just to give you some context, when I got to throughout elementary school, I was uh, tested for special education. They said I had ADD or ADHD now. They were going to test me for dyslexia. I just told you that my mom is West African, so she heard this, and you can assume what the
Oh yeah.
reaction is.
Oh yeah.
No. And then she took me out, and then we eventually moved. and
Swift.
and what happened was, fast forward 2 years, I was getting placed in gifted and talented programs. And all that changed was me being moved twice and a adult that believed in me.
Yep.
And I often think about what would have happened if we didn't move, and if I didn't have a sixth grade teacher like Mr. Kaiser who told me I was smart. Because I didn't think I was smart until he told me I was smart. And so fast forward, when I got to UNC, I'm talking really lovely about UNC. But brother, the first semester at UNC, I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. They messed up. I like, these classes are hard, and everybody here has a nice fancy home with a garage and it has a car, and they feel comfortable. I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah.
this is rough. And honestly, it took folks saying, no, they didn't make a mistake. They're supposed to be here. Because if I didn't hear that or like get that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what would happen. And that thought stays with me all the time. And so I'm in talking about like the superhero thing. I want to be that adult. I want to be that person that says, "Oh no, you can do it. You can do it. You can. Yeah, you're supposed to be here. That you can do this." And if there's something that's holding them back, what is it? So I can help like make
Help.
sure
Yeah.
they get it, right? So and part of what that has turned into is my wife and I actually wrote a children's book We wrote
dope.
a book called C is for College. It is a ABC book about college access. So we can demystify the concept of college because like both of our households, we had to like a lot of the stuff we had to learn as soon as we got into high school and we were trying to figure this stuff out. And we're like, it doesn't need to be like that, especially for folks in our community. It doesn't need to be like let's make it a point so you can decide whether you want to go to college or not. Right. Like, so you are aware of what it is, what it takes to get there, what a FAFSA is. So your parents aren't like, I'm not giving them any of my information. I don't know who they are. Like, actually share what it is so you can then decide whether this is right for you and whether this is your next step. So it really resonated what you said. You gave me flashbacks. It was a journey.
That's dope. Yeah, for sure.
All right. The timeout moment is it Mr. Kaiser? Who's this 6th grade teacher?
Mr. Kaiser. Yeah.
All right. Right under Dr. Doom is what the hell is this 6th grade teacher story? I need to hear it just like Tyrone.
So I in one of the many moves that I did, I ended up at a elementary school called Springfield Estates. I came in and it goes from like kindergarten to 6th grade. I came in just to go to 6th grade. And my 6th grade teacher's name is Mr. Kaiser. At that point, I had just been told that I have ADD, and I was told that like they believe I have dyslexia. So I didn't really know what special education was or what any of that meant. I just knew I get to get pulled out and get to hang out with my friends. And I'm like, that sounds good to me. I don't see what the problem is. And so when I got to Mr. Kaiser's class, he obviously didn't know me. Nobody there knew who I was. And I was just kind of like doing my own thing. He paid attention to me. Like, he saw me. And one time I was just like looking at a globe. Like, I sat next in the front. He made sure I sat in the front, and there was a globe on his desk, and I would just stare at the globe like pretty much all day. And so he started calling me Atlas. And I was like, who is Atlas? And then he handed me a book about Greek mythology. And as you all know, your boy loves comic books. So if you give me a book about Greek mythology, I read that sucker forward, backwards, sideways. And then I became obsessed with Greek mythology. And so like everyone called me Atlas in 6th grade because that was what Mr. Kaiser called me. And Mr. Kaiser like was like, oh, Niels, you're really smart. And so anytime he give us class project or anything, he would be like, so here's a project, Niels, I know you're going to be great in this because you're smart. And it gave me so much confidence and assurance that like, yeah, I am smart. I can do this. I can do this really well. And then the next year we moved again. And the next year I went into middle school and they said, oh yeah, we're placing you in gifted and talented programs. And wow. I honestly think, yes, I had a mother who advocated for me and supported me, and other folks in my community that like my sister, my dad, he lived in North Carolina, but my dad was, still had a presence in my life. Like, they all believed in me, but it took someone who wasn't related to me to really make a difference, to speak life into me. And it was Mr. Kaiser, very much so. I still talk to him to this day. That's my guy. But yeah, I remember vividly him saying I was smart, and that made me actually believe that I was smart.
Tyrone, you have like 6 of these people, so I'm going to let dealer's choice on this one. Yeah, maybe that's a shallow multiple of what's actually there.
Yeah,
just remind you of most.
Ruth.
Tell Niels about Ruth.
Yeah, I think so. There's something. Wow, this is powerful. There's something very poignant here. And my mother always tells me, don't lose the moment. So I don't want to lose this moment, especially because it's recorded, and also because there's another Black man in the room. I never had anybody tell me I was smart. I always had people told me I was athletic. And I always talk about when I mentor boys or I go into schools and I tell people generally, okay, this kid is tall. Why can't he be the CEO of an S&P 500 company? Look at the average height of a CEO. Why does he have to be the point guard for Kentucky? Right? and I don't say that to demean anybody around me, right? That they weren't pouring into me or that they weren't fruitful. But look at the trajectory of telling somebody and reinforcing the fact of what you tell them. It could be you're dumb. It could be you're smart. It could be you're athletic. I'm going to lean into that. I'm impressionable. I'm young, right? And again, it wasn't the antithesis of folks saying anything demeaning in terms of my intelligence, but that wasn't what was promoted. It was athleticism, by the way, that I didn't show until I got around Marty Holleran, who was somebody we could talk about as well. But the other thing, if you peel back another layer to that, I think what's also fascinating about what was shared in this moment is my time of discovering my athleticism and then eventually getting placed at a school with a lot of academic rigor. My gift or talent placed me somewhere I should have been too early. I wasn't prepared for that. So often our gifts and talents prepare us for blessings that come way too early. And I wasn't prepared for that, right? And it's hard to be prepared for that at 18 years old, right? So my talent got me somewhere that I really wasn't prepared for, but ultimately helps me discover my gift. And my gift got me right back at that place to have an endowment, right? So, sorry, I had to get that out. So, so Ruth is definitely the one person that comes up all the time when folks share stories of people who've poured into them like that. You're right, I have a long list. But I want to put a pause on that, and here's why I think Marty Holleran, Coach Holleran, my second dad matters here, because to play the teacher angle, because he was a teacher, right? He's my freshman biology teacher. And me sitting in his class and wanting to get out of his class was how I got introduced to track. And he stopped me after class. He's like, have you thought about running track? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, do you want to pass this class? I'm like, yes, I do. And he's like, well, I'll see you at 3:00.
Very
like,
motivating.
Right.
Very
very motivating. Yeah. And the rest is history. So I just had to mention that. But why I think there's a symmetry here with Ruth as well is because she was the first person to make me believe that there was somebody who could love me outside of my family and that could care for me in that way. And to me, I've always said this to anybody around me. I think the greatest way, I don't say the greatest, but one of the greatest ways that you could display love, especially for humanity, is feeding somebody. Breaking bread is one thing. But if I put food in your mouth, that's very serious to me. If somebody feeds you or gives you something when you don't have it yourself, and to see a little boy sitting on the end of the lunch table, it doesn't have it, right? And I'm going to feed you, but not only did she feed me, she went and got me McDonald's. And boy, everybody else got school lunch or you got McDonald's. I'm at the top of the cast, baby.
Look, hey.
I go from bottom rung.
You say jump, I say how high. You give me McDonald's?
What? Do you know what I'm saying? And it was,
we're best friends.
Oh, right. This is what it feels like to be rich. That's the first moment. I was like, ooh, right. She got the large fry. Like I was, I'm handing out.
Oh, she loves
fries.
you.
Yeah. Oh,
if you move from the little paper sack to cardboard,
that's love. That's absolutely
love, right?
Love.
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely. So at that moment, I realized the importance of that. Here's what's crazy about it. As you mentioned when we first got on about, making me think about video games and what that would have meant for me as an adult. As I stand here or sit here now, anybody that knows me knows my heart bleeds for the homeless. I can never pass a homeless person. Like it destroys me to see it. And I do anything to help when I can. I talk to them, I feed them, I try to bathe them if I can, clothe them, put them up. And unfortunately, living in San Diego right now in a very affluent area is all I see. And it's a torment for me. And I think a lot of that goes to my childhood and being hungry and somebody actually feeding me and caring enough to stop. There was a whole bunch of kids in that cafeteria, right? And she just happened to walk over to me. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's very impressionable. And I bring her up a lot because a lot of what she demonstrated in that moment, one, it was an extension of my mother. Two, she was the first person to be a representation of all of the people that would come later in life to pour into me. And three, it was the first display of the power of humanity, to see need in somebody else and fill it. And I think that's why it's so important for me now. When I see a need in somebody, I want to fill it, right? And similar to the conversation that was had earlier, is that for me, anybody around me knows that I will drive you to the nth of your potential, right? I have this theme that I'm running with now called violent discipline. And I truly believe that anything that you want in life, or anything that you desire to have, or anything that you don't have, is because you're not violently disciplined personally to convict yourself personally, to be violent with yourself, to have it manifest. Consistency, hard work, dedication, integrity, all those stuff is nice, but it all comes back to discipline. Can you discipline yourself enough? And the violent part is not in the sense of physical abuse or anything like that, is that I can pick out all these things in other people or whatever else, but am I violent with the conviction of myself? Can I turn inward and say, I'm not this enough? I'm too much of this. So I turn all of that to her because she was she invented chain smoking. Boy, oh boy, because she'd sit there and smoke. She turned on her Elvis. She drank that bland iced tea. And she would have a day. And I'm sitting there like, man, if she just put a little sugar in this iced tea.
That's all she needed.
That's all she needed. Bland iced tea, a box of cigarettes, and Elvis playing, and life is good, right? But again, that juxtaposition of, you know, and again, ultimately that's what took her life, but she couldn't, that fierce way that she had of turning outward and helping me and other people and just being who she was, who everyone loved. She couldn't be violent, turn it in violent, that discipline, to fix those things herself. So bringing her up just conjures a lot of feelings and emotions, but she definitely was the first person that showed me a lot of the things that would be part and parcel to my life later on.
This well, man, I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but I just you cool? Okay. I
wanted you to say something because I saw those wheels turning and I was like, I know you have a thought on this Ruth story.
I mean, I think you're right. I think that philosophical approach is one, a testament to personally where I am and like how I got to where I am. But two, like also your why is very similar to my why and for what I do. So, and like I give a shout out to Mr. Kaiser. Mr. Kaiser gets too much love. There's some other adults in schools that have helped along the way.
Take him down a peg right here.
I mean, he was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. Was an impressionable young man. Puberty was in. Like, I needed someone to say, look at the books. You are smart. Focus there. But you were talking about like how you feel with when you see someone homeless. That is, I have a similar feeling, except it's like anger. Like I am frustrated at the system and the society that folks end up in those situations. And what I get really upset about is people believing that it's supposed to be like that and just being real comfortable. Well, like, oh yeah, this is supposed to, folks aren't supposed, this is a game and folks aren't supposed to win a game. And I'm like, this is a lot different than a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like Contra, you can start over. You know what I'm saying? You can't really, you got one life. You know what I'm saying? And the game is not fair. But it could be. And I think whether it was the majority of my career working in educational equity, where I wanted to again be that adult in those rooms for those young people to say, hey, you're smart, or hey, I believe in you, whatever you want to do, I believe you can do that, to evolving into talking to leaders to say, hey, I believe in you, so you can believe in your team, so your team can be those adults for those young people. To now just thinking about, well, you know what? Part of the reason we continue to need these systems and these programs and these academic spaces is because we want folks to experience economic mobility. We want folks to like feel like they can have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. In order, in my opinion, to be a full human, to experience life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it's really helpful to not be living in poverty. It kind of helps out a lot. So you can actually, like, you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You gotta if you don't have basic needs, all you're thinking about is basic needs. And if you take care of that, the next thing you think about is security. If you don't have security, you're constantly thinking about security, then belonging, so on and so forth. But if you don't got your basic needs and you don't feel safe, you can't think about anything.
Come on now.
And
Come on now.
that is why, so I'm currently the executive director for an economic mobility nonprofit in DC called Lift DC. It is the DC affiliate of a national economic mobility organization. And the entire premise of Lift is to break the cycle of poverty by investing in parents. And in my time in education, I noticed that our impact was done the best the more we collaborated with parents. And I always wondered, why don't we just invest directly into parents? And then I found Lyft, and Lyft literally just invests in parents. We believe parents are the CEOs of their household. We believe that the more you invest into them, the more they're going to invest in their kids, essentially lifting two generations at the same time. And so we don't tell our parents what to do. We ask them what they want to do. What are the goals they have for themselves and their kids? And all we provide is cash and coaching and connections. And brother, if I told you what the results were, you would be like, you're lying to me and it's recorded. How dare you? But I promise you, it works. 96% of our members improved in their finances in some way, shape, or form.
That's
average
dope,
increase in income is $20,000. Decreasing debt by $5,000, increasing savings by $6,000, all in a year. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying like as soon as they're done with us, they're dramatically building wealth, but they're on the journey there. After dope. 2 years of working with Lyft, they're on a journey towards economic mobility. So I say with my full chest that we know how to break the cycle of poverty. It's cash and coaching. And the third one is community. Like you can't feel alone. And we just talked about like, yes, the origin of superheroes and supervillains is the same, but like we also hopefully can get to a place where no one feels alone and no one feels like no one has their back. And I think that the way to do that is by having community. So everyone feels like someone has their back. Everyone feels like they're connected and supporting each other. And then we won't need superheroes or villains in the future. So that's the work I do. It really resonated when you were saying how you're doing. I think the how is how you're talking about it. Like to really get folks in a mental space to overcome all the obstacles that are in their way. I think how you described it is spot on.
Clutch. Same for you. Matt, you need to clip that part and put it on X with the whole poverty conversation, 140K, and tag Michael Green. Like,
Gladly will.
That's it. That's it right there, man. That's it.
Tell them a little bit about what you're up to. Tell them about where you are in the work that you're doing these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting to hear that because a couple things. I've been working to educate incredibly impoverished communities on financial education. And I don't say financial literacy for a reason, because financial literacy has this stigma that it's for them. It's for those people, right? Where you say financial education, all of a sudden everybody wants to listen. So due to the fact of my background, this has been something that I've been doing for a very long time. I've traveled across the country. I've gone everywhere to go into schools. I was a juvenile probation officer at some point, spreading the gospel there as well. But financial education, equity of opportunity, and access for people to get financial planning, right? I think that you should get financial planning regardless of your zip code, regardless of your color, creed, denomination, race, sexual orientation. And that's why we built 401 Financial now, which is my RA to do so. But for the last probably 10 years or so, I created a curriculum called Learn to Money, to get into high schools and teach kids about the basis of financial education. I just recorded a bunch of videos for the Texas school system.
Need that.
I've also been saying as well, to your point, if you get the kids, you get the parents. So if you have all these kids doing weekend sports and all this other stuff, to me, if BlackRock is going to make all this money from people, why not sponsor a sports team and put finance and education directly at sports venues or whatever else? The parents can't avoid it, right?
They're going to be there.
They absolutely, they're going to be forced to do it. And what you said reminded me of a story, which is still one of the greatest moments in my life. There's a program in New Jersey called NJ Leap. And I got introduced to NJ Leap when I was at Morgan Stanley, and the principal in my office at that point, he was, what's it called when the folks do the auctioneer, right? So it was an auction that night, and he was doing something for NJ Leap, and I went with him. It was in Newark, New Jersey. And shout out to Brick City. And I went with him and sat through this program, and I saw all these inner city kids. And I was like, man, I'd already been on my journey of pouring back into the community. So what NJ Leap is they pair the kids in East Orange, Irvington, and Newark with this program with Seton Hall Law School, which is really cool. And I sat there that night, and I'm like, I haven't heard anything about money at all. And I kept emailing the director, kept emailing the CEO, and I'm like, you guys have to have something about financial education for these kids. I was on a similar trajectory. By this time I graduated from Seton Hall. So I was like, you have to let me at these kids. And they're like, well, you're not a lawyer. And we would like them to get it from a lawyer or whatever. And I was like, I don't care. I don't need to be a lawyer. So they let me at them. And they were like, well, we got this life skills class. It's 2 hours. Like, do you think you can keep the kids interested in money for 2 hours? And they gave me the whole disclaimer. They're interested in kids, and there may be a little disturbances, and they, behavioral issues. I said, let me at them. Let me at them. So I get to the program.
About money.
Yeah.
I need 2 more hours.
Exactly. 2 more hours. So I go, and, they let me in the classroom, and you see them in the door, like looking through the window, like, what's going to happen, right? 2 hours and 15 minutes later, they had to come get me out the classroom. They're like, the kids are all fired up or whatever. But here's the dopest part. They all go home. This guy came in and he was doing this, that, or whatever. Now they're calling me. They're like, all of the parents want to meet you now too. So we had to get an auditorium at the place where they have it. All the parents are in there, requested themselves. Late night, I walk into this classroom and I see the faces, all these faces of parents who look like mine. They were tired. They were exhausted. They were fighting to have a good living for them kids. But I put so much into their children. They made the time late night to come listen to what this Merrill Lynch advisor had to say. By the time I was done, wasn't a dry eye in the room. Because I spoke directly to their need. It wasn't about IRAs or this, that, and the third or whatever. I was like, all I see when I look at y'all is my parents. And then we did that. Then they started asking me to come back. And I got a classroom in there named after me now because of that. So the passion that I have, again, it aligns very well with what you said. Like, it's a deep passion of mine. So then as I started, now this is, after I had experienced a bunch of things that I experienced on Wall Street. And then I started to realize the power of controlling your own destiny and having your own brand and looking at the way that firms were set up or whatever. And when I set up my own firm, which is 401 Financial now, I was like, I want to make sure that we are providing a firm from when everyone sees our branding, how we talk about this or whatever, they feel like it's for them. And it's one thing to have financial education, but the planning aspect, right, of what it means that my plan is cohesive with my background, because wealth management starts with the planning of people that already have. But financial planning should start with if I'm on Wick, Snap,
Yes.
TAMP, whatever the case may be. There's planning there for those people as well. Planning will be what is in your community. What resources do you have? Are you maximizing these social resources to improve your quality of life? Again, those same resources that, Professor Plum, right? Shout out to Michael Green that mentioned these social services and things people aren't taking advantage of to the maximum of their ability, earn income tax credit, all of these different things.
Yes.
But most importantly, what I said to those kids, because I experienced it myself, when we walk through this community, there are certain things that are omnipresent. There's liquor stores, there's this, there's all this other stuff. But if you look, there's payday lenders, there's check cashing places, there's all these other things that keep us in bondage. So you go to these places to cash your check because you don't have a bank account, and go across the street to get liquor because you had a hard week and you're just trying to make it, and you get fast food before you get on a bus 40 minutes through a gang zone to get home with the lights being off and the water barely working, right? Like that, to me,
with no path of escape.
With no path of escape. But if folks like us don't come in and give them a clear path out, as opposed to saying, make more money, just do this, go to this school, get this degree, that's not realistic. So I'll end this by saying part of it is proximity, getting proximate to the struggles, the needs, desires, pains, frustration of these people. When I say these people, I don't say that in a demeaning way. This could be rural communities. This could be inner city folks that are left out, right? There's banking deserts in the United States still, right? People who are like in the South Bronx and in Manhattan, parts of New Jersey, that same area. North Irvington, East Orange is the gutter. So anyway, my whole life has been geared towards 1, educating, 2, providing access, and 3, the empowerment, right? So the education, but the empowerment. And I did a TED talk about this, right? The 3 E's. The empowerment part is important. The empowerment plus endowment. Yeah, I'm going to come to the school, right? And I've been to a bunch of schools in the South Bronx and all over the place, but I can educate, I can empower, but my ability to endow, meaning I'll be back and I'm going to bring more resources with me. And we're going to make sure that 20 kids aren't sharing the same book. We're going to make sure that kids aren't outside of a Burger King stealing the Wi-Fi to do their homework. We're going to make sure that we stop at the library on the way out to find out that kids don't graduate because they owe book fines. We're going to go into the lunchroom to see kids that have student lunch debt and they can't graduate because they're student lunch debt. So we educate, we empower, and we endow, right? And I think that movement is really powerful and something that I care deeply about, and I always will. And I think there's a very specific way to do it that's not being done, right? And else, to your point, it can be done. At some point, we have to acknowledge it's the richest country in the world. We just don't want to, right? And if more of us wanted to, it would change overnight, literally overnight.
So I have a few thoughts. One is, we know how to. Folks just don't want to. It's literally what you said. We have documented evidence on several different practices to show how we can stop this. I just don't know if there's a desire to do it. So it's not like, oh, I don't know if there's going to be a strong ROI in investing in this program or in this function. No, we know it'll work. But folks just don't want to. Folks just have a real, and by folks, you can fill in the blank of whoever you want folks to be. But folks just don't want to invest in that money for whatever their reasons are. And I think the other thing that you just highlighted, but I gotta reiterate, is when folks talk about, I'm just gonna say historically oppressed communities, but I'm double downing on Black folks. Historical oppressed communities, but double down on Black folks. And they're like, well, of course they just want to be, you know, an athlete or a rapper, so on and so forth. They see what they want to, the only thing they see is what they think they can believe, and they need to focus on education. I think there's a reason I made a pivot from education, and it's because education might be the closest thing to a meritocracy that we have in this country, but education in America is not a meritocracy. It is not like you come into the school and just off of your ability, character, and sheer will, you will be successful in education. I wish that was true. It sounds great. I want it to be true. And for many years, I told myself it's true. It's not true. Not here. Not in this country. It's not true. Like, I think that's the dream. I think we all want that. And and a lot of people every day are busting their butts to work towards that future. But that is not reality now. And it hasn't been for many, many years. And so are we just supposed to assume that the lucky folks, the folks who are blessed to have people at their corner and their side, are the only ones who deserve to have a path towards experiencing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? I say expletive no. I don't agree with that. And I think it's funny you use 3 E's, I use 3 C's, but I think the concept is that folks need support, and folks need information, and watch what they do with it. You give them support, and you give them just more information, because like all the families that you were talking to, nobody told them until they came into that auditorium and you shared that with them.
Until their kids went home
watch
and
what
told
they
them.
do with it. Watch what they do with it. And like, we just need to do, and we can do that everywhere with everyone. It is actually possible. And that can take us one step closer to the future we all desire, in my humble opinion. So.
Couldn't agree more. And that's one of the things that I always say when I'm talking to very poor kids, when I go into these schools. The last thing I tell them, and it's consistent every single time, I said, if they took all of y'all right now and gave you the same resources as the kids up the street, I'm betting on you 10 out of 10 times you'll clean their clocks. Because the reason they keep giving y'all spoonfuls of things is because they're trying to keep you here and don't think you're worthy of it. But if you had the same access to tutors, you had the same amount of money, you had all things being equal, you got one thing that they don't, that I had. The fridge was empty. And if the fridge is empty, hungry lions hunt best, baby.
Hungry,
right? And then that's just what it is. And we all know people who have done very well and grew up with affluence, and their kids. I have a friend here, and we talk about it all the time. He's like, man, I just don't. I was like, listen, you can't gift your kids struggle. Sorry, right? There's nothing that's gone, and that's a blessing that they were born into but you can't gift them struggle. But life will humble them, right? Life in some ways going to deliver it. But you can't gift them struggle. And good luck, because they're going to run into a kid that got the struggle and everything else that they got. And boy, oh boy, they're going to come back to you and let you know. Right? I met a Tyrone today. I met a Tyrone today.
And they just seem like they wanted it more than me. It's because Tyrone's hungry.
Because he's hungry.
Right? But I think there's another side to this too. And it's a side of hope and responsibility, because we're speaking from the lens of folks within the struggle. If you provide resources and information, they will bust their butt to take care of themselves, take care of their families. But what if you don't give the resources or support? And I think there's a conflated idea that, well, I don't live in those communities. Well, I did what I need to do to take care of myself. to take care of my families. Like,
Yep.
I might do a little subscription donation here and there, but I'm going to vote the way that I want to vote because I want to protect my own personal interests.
Righteous. Come on now.
I think what folks I think the fantasy that folks live in is I wish I can be as ignorant as ignorance is really bliss. Like I would love to not know what I know. Because what I know is this. There's going to be a day where folks are hungry, and folks who are hungry are going to want to eat. And if all they can get is the food on your plate, they're going to get after the food on your plate.
100%.
Because folks need to eat. And it doesn't have to be like that. We have an abundance of resources that everyone can eat.
Yep.
Not to quote, what's my movie? Paid in Full. Not, it's my movie, but Money Making Mitch and Ace Boogie. Everyone eats, B. I really truly believe everyone can eat.
Everybody eats. I say that all the time.
And you protect your own personal interests by just supporting other folks. Provide the resources, provide the information, and you're protecting your stuff by also helping other people get theirs as well, without having to think that you can be disassociated with that, because whether you like it or not, we're all in the same community. It's a huge community, and it's this world. And if folks can't get it, they're going to try to find it. And if you're hoarding it, they're going to go to the source. So,
yes, sir.
And this is a very nice PC way for me to say that protecting your stuff by keeping it away from other people is not going to work. It's just not going to work. So,
no, sir. No, sir.
I saw a wheel. Did you have another wheel turn in there, Tyrone?
Well, a couple of things. One, I was going to tell you, this is the point in the conversation where you pass around a virtual collection plate. My man was preaching. Like, you got to.
Right. Anyways, whyWeLift.org.
We need to take up offering.
Please go to our website. We'll gladly take any and all your resources. I promise you the investment will be used well. And it will make a difference.
You pause the pod, and then you take up offering, and we're back. But a couple things to that. On the ignorance point, I always say there's two types of ignorance. One, you told me, and I don't know. I just don't know. And the other one is I told you, and you don't care. Right? I'm just ignorant to that. I don't care. And I think that's really important here. And the other thing that I wanted to say was what I wish, like looking at this conversation that Matt and I don't know if, you're on X, but you're on X all the time and you're seeing these conversations and I'm sure you know this in your work as well. It's like, my parents don't want to be rich. Like they don't desire to have all these things and a ton of money. Whatever. They just want a quality of life. They want to feel secure. They want to be able to go to the doctor. And I think they would be surprised of how many people don't want $50 million in the Fresh Prince theme when they come home, right? They just want quality of life. They want their family to be secure, kids in good schools. And I think the majority of Americans are on that. And I think the way that I'm joking now.
Can I quickly illustrate a point? Before you keep going. And by that, I mean, like, this is the reality for a lot of people, especially in this country. They check their bank account before they step into the grocery store.
Come on.
They get all the groceries. They check their account right before they go into the line. And then they give the card and they are praying.
Yeah, breath is held.
Praying. Please go through. They already checked their account twice. But because they don't got it. They have to check triple times and they still pray. Tyrone, I can make an assumption. I bet you still hold your breath when you give somebody your card, even though you know you got it.
Absolutely. I tell this people all the time. Every time I pay my rent, because I know what it's like to not have the rent. Every single time I do, I get on my knees and I'm like, "Whoo, I got it!" Right? Look at the first, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. It's trauma.
And what we're saying is, folks just don't want to do that anymore. Folks would just like to know comfortably that, I can pay my bills. I can go to the grocery store and buy the food for myself and for my kids. So,
and
sorry to interrupt you.
No. But again, that's just that's the energy. That's what I'm trying to nail home, is that there's this talk of all of these things and, benefiting from capitalism and all this other stuff. And it's like folks just want a good quality of life, right? To go in the grocery store and not have to worry about those things and not go, oh, it's the 28th. Yeah, it's going to be late this month because we got to take and do all these other things. And being and living through that and that trauma, it's like I try so hard to get people to understand that is that the majority of people in this country just want to be able to do basic things and not have to worry about it, right? And not have to do that mental accounting and go into the store with, oh, okay, well, we can't get this, and then we got to get half of this and some of this, or we just can't go to the grocery store at all. I remember my mother at times like, it ain't this. What we got is what we got in here, and that's just what it's going to be, But anyway, and the last thing I wanted to say was this, just really quickly. I saw a video yesterday somebody sent to me, and they asked the little girl, and said, what are your hopes for when you grow up? And she said that corruption doesn't end before I get the benefit from it.
Ooh. Super villain in the making.
Man.
Oh man.
Oh,
Dr. Doom.
Come on, man. That's what that is.
That's what literally what that is.
Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what that is.
Because she already realized what the game is and how to win.
That's what we breed in this country. And with a straight face, she didn't smile. And the person that was the holder, like, she was like, next question. Yes. I've watched that video 5 times.
So I have a similar reflection, which is I'm a man of faith. I often wonder if, there is somebody who has billions of dollars and unfortunately someone in their family has cancer and they would trade all their money in the world for the cure of cancer. And a wondering I have is, what if God put the cure for cancer in the mind of a young Muslim black girl in the middle of Southeast DC off of Good Hope Road and was like, world, I gave you the cure of cancer. It's in that little girl's mind. Will she ever be able to use her gifts? Will she have the opportunity, the way that the world is set up, to actually become the person who can solve the cure of cancer? I don't know. I think we all want that to happen, but the way the systems are set up, I don't know.
For the purposes of recent events, I'll amend it and say she's Somalian. Let's say she's Somalian.
There we go.
And see if the current administration, if that would bother them a little bit.
There we go.
But that's part of the lottery fallacy that somebody has to win, but you get to pick who. It's part of the needle in a haystack thinking and saying, like, this is the thing we actually want to find. Do we actually care where it comes from?
Yeah.
Or do we just care that we find it?
Yeah.
And it's probably not going to be some hyperscaler. That's the way that this gets delivered. It's going to take a real solution.
Nope. It is. And that's where, thinking about this conversation, and I'll have a real moment right now. I'm sick and tired at this point in my life of meeting folks with like minds and having this conversation. And this work is exhausting to pour into humanity and get things done. And you talk to these nonprofit programs and all these programs that I've gone into to help, and they're without money and they're without resources. And these folks are doing this, all year, 16, 18-hour days. And I'm exhausted, and it's pissing me off because at some point we got to take action on it. And there has to be leaders that are going to make this their platform and run on that. And I got the chance to speak to a class at St. Bonaventure last week, and I get the opportunity to speak to college kids and stuff all the time. And what I'm trying to impart, not only into them, but in conversations like this, and to the point that you just made, is that little girl or that little boy, we have to find the future leaders of this country and imbue them with these same ideals so that they get a platform. And the same way the existing leaders or lack thereof fight for corporate entities or whatever else to say, you know what, here's what I'm going to do in my first 100 days. We are going to completely rehaul the education system in this country.
Yeah.
We are going to go after poverty. We are going to cure homelessness, which is a humanitarian crisis. The people who fought for this country are sleeping face first on the sidewalk. If you don't like it, get me out of office now. I will do everything that was done previously. I will sign executive orders to my hand cramps. And this is what we're going to do for the first 100 days. We are going to turn inward. No money is going to go out. We are going to solve all of our internal ills. Somebody in this country right now, when I say somebody, some child, some 10, 12, 15-year-old is that person. And we got to find them. Because, again, being 40, 50, 60 years old, yeah, we can talk about it. We get the platforms and we may have the resources. But if we forget to pour into the mind that is going to be old enough, right, to grow up to fix it, finally say, I'm running on it and I'm going to take all of the ridicule that comes along with it. And we're going to fight corporate interests and we're going to fight lobbyists and we're going to do all these other things and then go, we're 90 million people who didn't vote. And if that child gets those 90 million with the other people that will vote anyway, like that's where we really start to affect change. So it's like, I'm so exhausted. Like I've poured so much of my life into this and I will continue to, but at some point we have to fire and spark the mind of the individual and the individuals that are going to say, you know what, I'm going to take up that mantle. I'm going to be the Dr. King, or I'm going to be whoever it is, right? The Mary Lou Hamer, whoever it is, they say, I'm going to fight. I'm going to go on Capitol Hill. I'm going to start in my high school. I'm going to start in my community. And we're going to start a platform to affect meaningful change in this country, because it is crazy to me. And I'm all for capitalism. Folk, make as much money as you want or whatever. But it does not mean that we forsake the people at the bottom. And we can't divert those resources. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, Tyrone, there's always going to be poor people. I get it. But let's redefine poor. How about that? How about we redefine it? How about we raise the bar for what poor is? Of course there is. Everyone's not going to have $500 billion net worth. But let's raise the bar of poor. We continue to raise the bar for the wealthy. Let's just kind of, you know what I mean? I shouldn't have to step over people on my way to Whole Foods. How about that? Especially people that have Marine, right, or veteran on their hat. That to me is disgusting. Especially that fought for this country. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but it just gets me fired up, because at some point we're going to have leaders that run on that platform against all odds and say, this is what we're going to do. Buy in or get out.
And I have hope we will. I have hope there is that shitty
I do
person.
too.
And I feel like my role is to support whoever that person is to get there. What are the conditions that we need to have, whether it is in the DC metropolitan area, the East Coast, the United States, or the world, so that person can be ready. And I'm going to do my part. And, like, my encouragement to you, and to you, man, and to anybody listening, is hope is a powerful tool and a dangerous weapon. And it is really hard to get and to keep. But once you have it, you can do anything. And 100%. So I encourage you to keep your hope. It's a fight to get more hope and to give it to others. It's not something that you just got to hold on to yourself once you get it. Just like wealth. It's not something that you got to hold on to once you get it. Share it out. And so I constantly, as someone whose work is in the front lines, and when I look at my team and I talk with our members, and I'll talk with the folks who are desperately asking to be our members, I got to recharge my hope. And because I know how powerful and how dangerous hope can be. And I encourage everyone else to do the same. So.
I took some notes. I'm taking you through it. We'll pass the collection plate around one more time.
Come on now.
This is done.
Come on now. Tithes and offerings. Ties and offering.
Ties and offerings.
Benediction.
Tyrone, this is for you. I'm taking it back to the beginning of our conversation. We were talking about how superheroes and villains are one and the same. That's what Niels was talking about. It's those same conditions of alone plus nobody has your back. I'm just curious what you think about that now with the whole conversation behind us.
I agree. And it's funny when he was saying that, who I thought about was 50 Cent. And if you look at how he after, and then I guess it was last night, I was seeing the clip that infamous interview now where he was standing on the rooftop and he got the Knicks top on and he was spitting game and you could see the bullet hole in his face. That's a villain. There was nothing you were going to convince that dude of. It was up for everybody from that moment, right? But in that hurt, that pain, that aggression, he was dropping so many jewels, right, about believing in self. And his ability now, if you see, he is doing a little bit of hero work, right? A lot of it actually, right, of what he's doing. But that duality of the villain and hero that he plays, I got shot 9 times and I live. It's going. I will always default to villain first, and he's doing a good job of that. But I did think about that, and also I thought about, because my favorite superheroes are my parents, and I think about the power of their resilience and everything that they went through. My father coming to this country with nothing, right, and just wandering around and meeting my mother, and some of the things that they had to endure together, but also the villain side of what my father became to my sister as a stepdad to her, and then eventually what he became to me. And it was because the villains in his life started to show up, right? And how that affected our relationship and everything else. So through all of that, again, what they created and what they sustained with literally, right? And a lot of folks have the story of nothing, but also how you as you grow, you look back on that journey and realize, hey, you were looking at them as villains and certain things have happened, but as you get older, you realize their journey forced them into that duality. So that's what comes to mind for me.
Neil, something that Tyrone said that I wanted to hear what you thought more of. Never being told he was smart, being told he was athletic. The shaping of what we say, especially to young people.
Yeah, I want folks to know that they are responsible to speak life into others. It is so easy to speak down to others. It is popular, but just think about what you can do if you speak life to others. Absolutely, yes, young people, you should know better. Speak life to everybody. Yet you are athletic. Absolutely. You're also smart. You're also capable of doing whatever you want to do. And if that's not true, let them prove themselves or you wrong. But you shouldn't be the one to tell them they can't do it, right? Tell them how to do it. Tell them what your reservations might be for why they may not be able to do something. Give them some advice. Give them some insight. Tell them to go talk to somebody else who can give them some advice and insight if it's not you. But I think people don't realize the power of their words, or they don't care. And it doesn't end with someone being young. Shout out to Rachel. You had her earlier. Rachel speaks life to me. I feel like I can run through a wall because I have a board member like Rachel. We still need that. We are still little kids deep inside, all of us. And we still need folks to speak life into us. And so I encourage folks, be somebody's superhero. And you don't have to stop a speeding train. You don't have to leap off of a tall building. You don't got to wear underwear out in public, outside of your jeans and stuff like that. You don't got to do any of that. Just give hope. Speak life. If you see something positive, say it. But you don't have to push something down to let something rise. There's an abundance that everyone has in them. and speak towards it, in my humble opinion.
Excellently said. Tyrone, a question for you based on what he said. He brought up cash, coaching, and community as the three things you have to give. I'm really curious. Those three C's, I mean, hey, Niels, well done. Well done with those.
I give all props to Lyft. That's that's what we determine as an organization.
That is ruthlessly simple in the best way. But Tyrone, I'm just curious what you think. And I think especially like the cash element, link those together for me as you understand them, hearing them for the first time today, like me. Cash, coaching, and community. Fit those three words together.
Susu. S-O-U. S-O-U. I'm Caribbean, and a susu is part and parcel to how a lot of folks in my community have gotten things. And I think a susu is indicative of those three things. You got cash, folks, putting their money together. The coaching of getting people to understand how it works and the economics of it. And actually realizing, the history of it. If I remember correctly, back to the 1600s, I believe it was West Africa who started, but the community, and the community part is, if you go to certain parts of the country, especially in Brooklyn, especially, around Utica Ave and Flatbush and, in Queens, where there's a big Guyanese community, which I am, a susu is really important. Like, that was how we banked one another. That is how folks were able to pay bills, buy houses, get cars. So it's funny, the minute he said that, I thought of a susu, right? And I think, it was co-opted on some nonsense during COVID. But what I hated about that moment was that's a rich history in Black culture and Caribbean culture. Again, it roots back to Africa in the 1600s, which is crazy. So to me, I think now bringing it present in what I think about it is like what we do at my firm now is like, yeah, we do planning, but we almost flip it where it's like it is coaching. We're coaching folks who have never worked with a financial advisor before. We're coaching folks that had worked with a financial advisor, didn't really get the experience they wanted. So we're really financial coaches and helping people navigate their lives in their way, but sprinkling a little bit of financial planning in it. And the last one to me is deeply rooted in the most powerful is the community part. And to me, I think that's the most important part, because I'm fascinated with how the Jewish community rallies around financial education and how deeply rooted having debt is and owing somebody and paying on time, but how they basically keep, and you have the tropes, but I'm talking about how it's literally core to their belief in one another, their belief in their God, their spirituality, but how they support one another in their community. And in Jersey, Lakewood is a big Jewish community. And there was this article that was written a long time ago, and I was reading where like they literally have a home. And obviously some of your Jewish listeners or whatever could educate this, but I was reading this in Lakewood where if folks were struggling financially, you could go to that home and get resources like money. Like you literally can get resources to sustain yourself or whatever else, and how they do business with one another. And they're educating along the way, how early they start their kids in it. That is so, so powerful. And I think a lot of the anti-Semitism and everything that comes out is just envy. Because
it's hate.
A lot of it's so much hate. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
The Jewish community has the biggest haters in history.
And it's like, come on, man. And it's but so to me, I think that's the sequel. That's the sequel podcast. That is the sequel. So much hate. And it's like, do y'all realize what you're saying right now? It's like, that's really not the own you think it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so in the Black community, it's always these narratives of how fast the dollar leaves our community. and how we do a really good job of promoting big brands and how, the Dior's and the Gucci's and the Louis Vuitton, they ain't even got to pour anything into our community, but we go, the first thing we do when we get some money, we go show that off, right? But that sense of community, of education, the ability to learn from, and the power of looking in someone's eyes who walk, talks, and acts like you and have the same experiences, and not looking down their nose at you, which a particular very prominent Black man does to our community, who I won't name now, right? Is the ability to look at people eye level and saying, I can help. And remembering, I was once here and now I'm here. I made it. I have all the wonderful things that life give, and making the presumption that they can follow the same path that you did. No, everybody's path is different. If I did it, you could do it too. Probably not. Yes, they can. You want to imbue that hope. But when you start to go into these homes like I did when I was a juvenile probation officer, you see the squalor that these kids are living in, right? You see maybe one parent, two parents, drugs, whatever the case may be. I was blessed to be in a certain situation I was in, for someone to pluck me out of that and separate me. So anyway, I think it's very important for us to come from those environments and those situations, to get back into the communities and pour into people, but meeting them where they are. And I think when we do that, that's a really powerful moment.
Niels, can I give you one more thing from Tyrone to reflect on before we play our Why I Introduced You game?
Sounds good.
He brought up having a plan, and this is part of his professional life, that's cohesive and conducive with his background. I feel like this shows up in the work you do, and I feel like that connection between the go forward and the look back is crazy important. What do you think about that?
What's dope about that is it speaks to the power of belief, specifically believing in yourself and just doing it, like taking a step forward. I wrote a book called From Vision to Reality that helps outline how people can start nonprofits. And one of the last things I like in the last page of the book, I'm like, I just told you in all these pages how to start a nonprofit. Cool. But I forgot to tell you one important thing, like actually write the idea down. Like, I know you've been talking about it. I know you've been saying this is what you want to do, but write it down. Like, literally take the first step and take whatever is here and put it down somewhere. And oftentimes that's the biggest hurdle for folks, is to not actualize what they believe in. So imagine if you could do that for yourself. You want to be this. You want to do this. You want to accomplish this. You might it might percolate in your head here and there, but what if you actually believed it and you wrote it down and you're like, this is what I want. This is who I am and this is what I want to do. And then you took the action steps to get there. Come on now. Yeah, I completely believe in it. It makes so much sense. That is exactly what folks need to do. And I think that's the power of coaching. I think coaching helps people help work towards that first step of actually believing that they can do what they want to do and be who they want to be.
It's time to play the game. I wrote it down before we came on. Why I thought you two had to meet. I got my answer here. It's inevitably a little bit wrong, but I'm feeling pretty good about mine right now. So I guessed pretty well. Tyrone, I'm making you go first. Why do you think I had to introduce you to Niels here today?
A couple things. One, when he has first mentioned moving around a lot as a child due to financial circumstances, I thought that was one. The other one was the work that he does and the work that I do, the passion for pouring into people and lifting them out of their current circumstance. And I thought one would have been like the college angle. But I wasn't too when he mentioned, I was like, wait, is he about to say his dream school was Georgia Tech? I was like, so I don't know. That one is loose. That one is loose. So I was like, that was the ACC. I'm like, now I'm making a connection, like an ACC connection there. But that was the third one that I thought. So those are my three.
All right, I like this. I like this. Neil, same question. Why do you think I needed to introduce you to Tyrone here?
Yeah, at first I thought it was because our colleges have sweet tea. I honestly thought that's what it was. I was like, yeah, I get it. I get
Shout
it.
to
I
Waffle House.
understand.
Shout to Waffle House.
You know what I'm saying? Because we know what Bojangles is. Yes, I get it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
And so I thought a lot of it was like the journey of college access, but now I think it's because our belief in financial empowerment and like having folks live fulfilling lives and the role that finances can do in helping someone get there.
All right, we're all pretty close. I wrote down super heroic acts aren't exclusive to superheroes.
Ooh, man.
And I had a
That's
hunch.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
I had a hunch because I was pretty sure Tyrone wasn't a comic books nerd. But I knew he would relate to that idea, especially after I figured out you were a Doctor Doom person. That he would
How
relate
did you
to
find that out, by the way?
I'm still trying to figure out how he found out some stuff from
Like
mine.
all the stuff you knew. I'm like, how does this man know so much about me? I was impressed.
Listen, he had me looking at folks I know sideways after we stopped recording. I was like, I didn't look at you different. You show me your messages.
I know.
Give me your phone.
I know how to do homework. And I love that both of you have this commitment to that last question that I asked you, Niels, of looking back into where a person came from, because you can't ever, Tyrone, you live this in your work, build that map forward unless you understand what you're starting with.
For sure.
And that includes all the bad parts and the good parts.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot to have people out in the world who understand that you actually have to start at that level, look them square in the eye as opposed to look down at them and say like, okay, where are you right now? How did you get here? And then where are we going next?
No doubt.
You both
No
live
doubt.
that without the capes on. I have to give you this. Partially on 50 Cent. I can never think of 50 Cent without the, how are you the king of New York when you live in Connecticut line? Still one of my favorites. Still one of my favorites.
You see, he sold that house quick. He got
Yes, he
got
did.
out of
Yes, he did.
quick.
I think I can't remember what year that was. I think I was still living in Connecticut at that time when that came out. Found that very
Sold that
amusing.
house quick.
Oh, that's tough.
Found that very, very
That's tough.
amusing. But also, I'm gonna hard encourage, if you don't know it, more gangster than 50 Cent every day of the week. Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers. Do you guys know that poem? Have you ever run into this poem?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
gangster.
email it to you as part of the introduction.
Yeah.
She's one of the most gangster poets ever and doesn't get the credit for it in that
Big fact.
exact framing. But
Big
hope is
fact.
the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. Like that
Yeah.
is some serious stuff on
Yep.
that last comment there we were
Yeah.
making. Tyrone, people want to find more. They want to bug you on the internet. Where should we send them to look you up?
At TR401 on X, and I am Tyrone V. Ross Jr. on LinkedIn, and Tyrun, TYRUN 401 on the gram.
Fantastic. Neil, same question for you. People want to bug you on the internet. Where should they find you?
If they want to support the work, go to whywelift.org, WHYWELIFT.org. And if you want to find me on social media, LinkedIn is the best place, and it's first name Niels, last name is Ribeiro-Yemofio, RIBEIRO-YEMOFIO. And you can see all the stuff that I'm involved in on my LinkedIn.
I'm going to be putting links below in the comments. There's plenty more over at cultishcreative.com. I want to thank both of you for coming out. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things below. This is Just Press Record on Cultish Creative YouTube, and we are out. Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Ziegler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.